Hello folks, Peter Lawn here. Today I wanted to quickly run down some changes and additions that I have made to the NMS-Util Blender plugin that was incorporated into version 1.15. You can get the latest version from my GitHub page at the URL shown. For those not familiar with this plugin, it's a collection of add-on utilities that assists with building No Man's Sky bases in Blender. I also put a video together on how this utility at version 1.12 works, and you can find that information on my YouTube channel, which goes through most of the functions of this tool. With this update, there are two main things updated since version 1.12. I created a new module called Connections under the NMS-Util tab that helps with some of the wiring tasks when building bases. I also overhauled the Object Along Curve module, which includes a curve creator section, as well as a cleanup of the workflow in this module. Okay, so let's start with the Connections module addition. At the top, you'll see two scope options, which basically allows you to choose whether you want to take action on just the selected items in the 3D scene or the entire object set in the scene. It defaults to selected to isolate any changes to the selected items only. Next, you will see a set of options to select the line type you want to work with. There are basically four types of connector lines in No Man's Sky. There's wires for electrical connection to objects that need power, pipes for moving resources from your extractors to your silos, teleport lines used by the mini teleporters, and finally byte beat lines, which interconnect your byte beat boxes and or byte beat switches. It should be noted that common sense should be used when connecting these things together. Obviously, connecting two lights with a teleport line doesn't do anything in the game, but you can do it with the utility. Also, you can connect lines to objects that don't naturally have connection points for wires. But this can be useful, for example, to hide wiring in objects such as floor plates or inside circles that go to other objects. I know we now have the wire hider in the game, but I'm still fond of keeping wires hidden throughout my bases. I set up this basic scene in Blender with some game objects to demonstrate how to use the Connections module. Let's say we have to connect these four lights together with electrical wires. I will box select all objects and make sure I'm on the selected objects for scope in the Connections module, and have wires in the type of connection section selected, and then I click the Connect button under the Actions section. You can now see all the lights have connectors added and electrical wires between them. I should point out that when connecting a group of selected items, the originating location will be the active object, or the last item you've added to the group selection, which is indicated by the brighter orange outline of the object. You can change the active object anytime by holding the Shift key and left mouse clicking on the last object that you want the wires originating from. I'll box select all my lights and connections, and then delete all wires and connectors with this convenient Delete Lines plus Points button. I'll reselect everything at this time, hold the Shift left mouse button, and make this light the active light and change where the wires originate from. Now this works similar to the NMS plugin Connect button, except that it will eliminate extra points that show up when using the native NMS plugin. In the big scheme of things, the game engine doesn't really count the end connectors, only the lines themselves, so it doesn't impact the overall object count. The NMS plugin introduces the concept of end-of-line connectors to facilitate line start and end in 3D space when it exports line information to the game. In addition, when you export, save the game, and then import back into Blender, the extra connectors and lines get cleaned up. But because I often work with a master Blender base file and only typically export to the game, my OCD doesn't like all these extra objects in Blender, and that's why I created this enhanced connect method. We can also highlight one or more objects and add connector points only using the Add Points button. Make sure you have selected the right kind of connector for the object in question before adding the points, as this will influence the wire type when you connect them later. Notice the lightning bolt connector now shows up at the connection points of the objects. You can individually select each connector point and connect them all with the Connect button, but it's a bit finicky trying to select all the connector points, especially in a very busy scene. A simpler way is to highlight a group of objects that already have connectors attached to them, and then click the Select Points button, which will only select the connectors. Now we can click the Connect button to make the connections between all the selected points quite easily. So you can see there's some flexibility in working with the wires in this utility. You can also highlight a whole mess of objects, connectors, and lines, and then have your choice of 3 types of deletion methods under the Actions section. You can delete lines and points, or you can delete lines only, or you can delete non-connected points. Remember that these actions only work within the scope and the wire types selected at the top of the module. The Snap to Next button is essentially the same as the NMS plugin, but added here for convenience. This feature is handy if the object has multiple connection points like a mini teleporter here. But I don't want the power line connecting to the teleport line connector, so I just box select the mini teleporter and its connector and click Snap to Next to get it to the right spot. It will basically toggle back and forth as you continue to hit the Snap to Next button. I also added this Clean Up Orphans button, which will look at lost connectors and clean them up in the scene. The NMS plugin utility has a unique feature which will leave ghost lines from the base computer location to the deleted connection location, and that can clutter up your scene and it's hard to maneuver around to clean them up. This button performs the cleanup with one click. I was originally going to include the changes to the Object Along Curve module in this presentation, but 6 minutes of me rambling on is enough for now. I'll post part 2 later on this on the changes on that module separately. So thanks for watching, folks. Keep building and having fun with Blender.